review for the book The Unthinkable: Who Survives When Disaster Strikes and Why by Amanda Ripley. In the United States today, 9 out of 10 Americans live in places that are at significant risk of earthquakes, hurricanes, tornadoes, terrorism, or other disasters. Amanda Ripley, an award-winning journalist for Time magazine, decided to write a novel to show how we can survive these disasters. She feels that the media and government agencies don't effectively show us how to do this. This novel seeks to answer two questions. The first is, what happens to us in the midst of a disaster? What do we go through physically, mentally, emotionally? And why do some of us do better than others? Why do some people panic? Why do some people freeze? What is it that evokes different responses from different people? This novel uses sociology and psychology to examine the human response and what we can learn in disasters from not only survivors but victims as well. There are numerous things that we can do to ensure our own survival in varying forms of disasters. In every kind of disaster, we start in about the same place and travel through 3 phases. These 3 phases make up the structure of the book. The first phase is denial, which can manifest itself in the form of delay, or it can cause a person to freeze or become immobile in disbelief. Many, if not most people, shut down in a crisis, which is quite the opposite of panic. Denial can totally paralyze you. So why do some of us delay in situations when it could be dangerous to do so, and what other functions could it serve? For deliberation, this comes after we've recovered from the initial shock of the denial phase. So how do we decide what to do next? We think and perceive differently. There's no normal reaction. And the decisive moment comes when we've accepted that we're in danger, we've deliberated the different steps that we can take to ensure our survival, and now it's time to take action. So how do we become better survivors? Well, there's factors that play into this that she goes over throughout the book. The first factor is fear. Fear guides our reactions in every phase of the survival arc, and it's at its peak once we have grasped the danger that we face. It can be countered with practiced responses to situations, so when a disaster occurs, you don't have to think about how to survive, you already know how to. Resilient people are confident people. They are confident in their abilities, they're confident in their past experiences, and they know that there's something that they can do to survive what's going on. This confidence can soothe the more disruptive effects of extreme fear. Groupthink is the idea that in disasters, people tend to move into groups whenever they can because humans are not entirely self-sufficient. Groupthink is an adaptive strategy. Dissent is uncomfortable for the group because it can be dangerous to the individual. There's strength in numbers. And panic is the worst scenario in the human imagination. All norms of behavior turn to chaos, and panic is high on uncontrollability, unfamiliarity, imaginability, suffering, scale of destruction, and unfairness. However, most people, although they will say in this situation they panicked, it's actually a pretty rare response. And it's preventable. As long as panic can be kept at bay, survival chances for most situations remains extremely high. The author's purpose in writing this novel was to show that there are steps that we can take to survive disasters, no matter how severe they may seem. The government and media outlets, she believes, have not effectively shown the public how to correctly react in emergencies. It's not only based on instinct, we can actively learn how to aid in our own survival. Her evidence is extremely convincing for the points that she makes throughout. She uses personal interviews with survivors of the actual events that she's reporting on, but she also consults with brain scientists, trauma psychologists, and other disaster experts. The book is easy to follow and has a clear organizational structure along the survival arc that she pointed out in the beginning of the book. The content is interesting and it keeps the reader's attention, and it's very, very relevant to what's going on in today's world. Our threats are ever evolving and ever changing, and we as humans need to be able to do the same. We need to take an active stance in ensuring our own survival when things seem rough.